is coming. Have you been following all these IPOs that are happening over in the States?
Oh yeah,
It's like the Wild West at the moment. It's not going to end
yeah.
well.
Well, a lot of times people fall in love with the model. So in the United States, everybody wants to be Uber. Uber's probably about $20 billion in debt right now because people love the model and they keep putting money into the model. But the model hasn't proven to be profitable yet. So we like these things and we think, and I love Uber. I hope they survive. I hope they find a way to be super profitable in the future. But it's a harder business model than people think it is.
Mm.
And so I think a lot of these models are going to shake out the way that some of the early models on the internet shaped up anyway. Like they didn't do well. Some do well, but most don't.
Mm.
And they think it's easier than it is. Like it's not easy to be an Amazon. It's the same thing in any business, though. A lot of people think having a low price is easy, like a Walmart or an Aldi's or whatever you guys have there in Johannesburg. It's hard to have a low price. It's really hard. Like you got to cut everything. You can't spend money to get a better result because you ain't got the money. So that's the problem for most people is they fall in love with a model and not recognizing just how much work any good model is.
Mm. Yeah, just to pick up on something you mentioned before we went live was that, I mean, you also mentioned that you're speaking to me on a teleprompter essentially from an apartment, which I understand you've retrofitted into this kind of now broadcast studio with the idea being, well, I suppose you met Seth Godin and that kind of where it's kind of where the idea kind of, manifested itself from. But what's interesting for me is that models now are almost, they're more in flux than they ever were before. The things are accelerating faster and faster and faster. And I know we've heard that all before for years, but it's just funny for me because when you every year it's something else that's adding more fuel into like these black swan type business events, right? That are it's almost we weren't ever prepared for as an entrepreneurship community, a community of business. We by and large were not prepared for the eventualities of a pandemic. We just weren't. Um,
Right.
and now looking back, I mean, it's going to be almost a year, right? Since March when COVID hit and so forth. But I mean, I've had a few people on the show now, and a lot of businesses are much better off for it. And if you were to label, C19 as a competitor almost, you know what I mean? Not in the sense of a commercial business, but it's another thing that
Right.
said, hey, I'm going to take you out. you know, you may have got to the start line, buddy, but I'm going to take you out. And so, and going back to Uber, one of the interesting things that we've seen here is that there's two other brands now that have come into the African continent, Middle East and Africa, that we've been dealing with directly, that are direct competitors to Uber. One of those competitors is Bolt. Have you heard of them before?
No, don't know them.
So, but it's literally the same business.
Right.
Take out Uber Eats. It's the same thing, and they've got a commercial fleet arm as well. And I wanted to maybe use this preamble to now get into the specifics around competition. Um, you know, what does it mean today? Maybe let's set up the premise here. You mentioned in your book here, this idea of eating your competitor's lunch. What does that mean today in the context of business and competition?
When you write a book, you don't get to title your book. So I've written 3 books. The first book is called The Only Sales Guide You'll Ever Need. And that's not what I named it, but I gave the book to the publisher and they're like, nope, we're changing the name. It's The Only Sales Guide You'll Ever Need. I wrote a second book called The Art of Commitment Gaining. And they said, no, we're naming it The Lost Art of Closing. And by the third book, like they didn't even ask me anymore. There was no more romance at all. Like we weren't in a courtship anymore. We've been married for 25 years in their mind. And I just got a note that said, this cover's going up on Amazon with this title on Monday. If you have any changes, send us a note back. Like that was it. And I saw the picture of the book, which I loved, in the title, Eat Their Lunch. One of the people in the publishing company, Nikki Papadopoulos, chose that name because she was pregnant and she was really hungry and they were at lunch and she came up with the title. What that means is the idea is that there's some of us that work in a business, and to win new business, we literally have to go take it from our competitors. And at the same time, we're out trying to pursue their clients to take them away from them. They're trying to take our clients away from us. So eating their lunch means going and displacing them, like forcing them out of the spot that they're in and taking that spot from them. Now, I'm American, so we have a certain view about this, that other parts of the world are a little bit softer. I don't think you guys are in Joburg, but it's not talked about a lot. Like, we don't talk about competition very much. We don't talk about capturing market share as a competition, but it is a competition. And what that means for you, if you're an entrepreneur, if it's a competition, you're a competitor. You don't get to decide that you're a competitor. You are a competitor. It's not a choice for you to make. You have to go out into the market and compete. And what's the competition over? It's generally over who can create the most compelling, differentiated value for the person, the client, or the customer that you're pursuing. And so this book was, oddly enough, the first book that I've been able to identify that even touches on the idea of competition. But that's really what we're doing. We're playing a game where one of us wins and one of us generally loses. And you want to be on the side that wins in as many contests as you can.
There's so much to get into there. So, are you familiar with the idea of category design in context
Sure.
of yeah? So that's great. So, to your point, I think a lot of us talk about we don't like to talk about competition. We like to talk about category design. And Uber being the category king of their market. And Airbnb and all these other brands, because to your point, we love the model so much. I just want to bring up the website there. And if I see you got your computer there. If you go to bolt.eu, but I'm just bringing it up for our audience so that they can follow along. It's literally a carbon copy of Uber. That's what it looks like from an end customer perspective. The fast, affordable way to ride. And it's interesting, if you think about Bolt's play here, because Uber's very much entrenched. I mean, we all have Uber's apps. I don't have Bolt's app, and neither do you. You haven't even heard of them before, right? But they're making a direct play after, or to try and capture market share from the entrenched incumbent here, which is Uber. What have you learned about this play from a challenger brand like Bolt, for example? How much, if you were to step back a bit and say to yourself that Uber owns 80% of the economics in their category, what chance does a smaller player with clearly less budget have against an entrenched player like Uber?
So essentially, there's three real choices of strategy that you can pick, and you do have to pick one. So if you don't pick one of these strategies, you're schizophrenic and the market doesn't know what to do with you. So the first choice that you can make is to have a lower price. So there will be lower price offerings coming in any category. So Uber's got the category. Somebody will figure out how to do it at a little bit lower of a price, and there will be an audience for that. Not the biggest audience, but there will be an audience that's like, I want to do that, but I don't want to pay what Uber charges me to do that. So that's one choice. The second choice is that you can just have a much better product. So in the United States and probably in the world, there's not anybody who does better than Apple. I mean, Apple's got it's a dominant market because it's got the best computers, the best phones, the best tablets. I think 70% of tablets that are online on the internet are iPads, and they're a category of their own because of that. Even though you can get a Samsung Galaxy tablet or something else, just there's not that many being used as compared to that. So that's the best product. Every market's got that. So I can get a Kia for like $15,000. I can get a Mercedes for $100,000. It's a different category altogether. So you can do better by deciding to be better. That's a choice that you can make. Uber's great, but how would I improve on that so that it's even a better experience for someone? And then the last choice you can have is what's called customer intimacy. Customer intimacy means I'm going to customize this for you in such a way that it's going to feel like it's very, very personal to you, and we're going to have a personal relationship. So if you've been in an Uber, and Uber would never like this being said, you will find somebody who understands the customer intimacy model. And they will say, Matt, listen, are you going back to the airport this week? And you're going to say yes. And they're going to say, here's my card. Will you text me and I'll come and get you? And what are they trying to say? I'll be your driver. We'll cut Uber out of this whole thing so I can make more money. And I'll be sitting in front of your hotel waiting for you at 4:45 in the morning or whatever time you want me there. So they're trying to make it more personal. I love that. Like I love Uber, and I don't want to cheat Uber because I need them to succeed because I show up in different cities every week. But when somebody says, I'll be your personal driver when you're in Chicago and they give you a good experience, now Uber's out because they got beat by the one thing that scale can't beat. And the only thing that scale can't beat is intimacy. So you have to decide, what is your play going to be? If you're going to be in the category, how are you going to play in that category? And there's always players in every single one of those strategies in every single category. If you are a person who likes the personal touch, like I have a tailor. I go to my tailor. They know me. I don't have to go into the dressing room because they've got my measurements. I walk in, I buy something, and they tailor it, and then we're done. I would rather do that than go somewhere else. And there's a whole bunch of things that you prefer that way. Not everything. There's some things that you don't care enough about to pay more, or you don't need it to be any better than it is. But for the things that we care about, there's always going to be people that are going to fall into one of those strategies. So you got to sort of pick how you play.
Okay, that's interesting. We launched about 2 weeks ago, we launched something called firesalehardware.com. And it's a hardware marketplace at Uber discounted prices. Sorry to use the Uber word there. But it's literally the cheapest hardware that you can get. Laptops, blah, 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 blah. And it's interesting for me because we're a group of companies. On the other side, we've got Digital Kung Fu, and we're expensive, basically, because we're the best. Right. We have the best product, so we charge whatever we want. And we've had many proposals. Clients kick it back and go, ha! But I can get it for $5,000 cheaper or $10,000 cheaper. We're like, go waste your money there. We're the best.
Right. That's right.
So, but it's interesting because now I'm in the situation where I'm the CEO of two companies. One's a discount play, super pricey, in terms of discounted prices. And the other one's very expensive. And I'd like to get your view. When should you compete on price, actually?
When that's your strategy. So like, if that's your strategy, so what I would tell you is I'm a purist, Matt. So like pick your strategy, and I would be making the same exact decision that you did. On this one, we're not discounting anything. The value is so great. You either get it and you pay for it, or you make concessions and you get something that's way less than what we're giving you. Period. I'm not changing that. That's a customer intimacy or best product, best service approach. And if you stay close to people and you have a longer relationship, it's customer intimacy. If you do it one time, it's probably just best product or service. On the other business, it's designed to say, all of you that are too cheap to buy a $6,000 MacBook Pro, here's this computer for you for $399. And they need the $399. You know who you are. So I'm a purist. Whatever you do, stay in your lane, because that's the value that you create. You've decided, I'm going to create value for people who can't afford a really expensive hardware. Okay. And then on the other side, you've said, over here where it's in this other category, I'm only going to go after the people who really want to spend the money and get the result that they want. You have to know who you are. You could have different businesses in each one of these lanes. And what you'll see people do when they decide to try to pull the competitors away from them is you'll see somebody like Samsung put out a $1,400 phone and then put out a $399 phone, trying to keep you in the brand. So if you really think Samsung's the brand, they try to eliminate you buying some cheaper phone by competing with themselves. That's what they do. So Apple's doing the same thing. They now have like a mini iPhone. They've got the 12 Max, and then they got a mini, because they don't want to lose that person to Samsung. So that's the way the game is getting played.
Great. So that clarifies that one for me. Whoop, whoop.
You're not schizophrenic.
No, Matt. I'm not. Thank God.
You're just a purist in the model, which is good.
I'm pure baby. That's what I like.
Yep.
So I'd love talking about startups because we're in the next 2 quarters we're launching probably another 3, all doing different things. And I wanted to ask you around competitive dynamics. So if you are a startup and you're looking to, let's just say, capture market share and go after a an entrenched player's account or client or customer or whatever, a brand in their portfolio. Number one, should you care about that, or should you just worry about winning an account that's not serviced by an entrenched player? It's the first thing. And then the second thing is, how do you decide which account that sits within a competitor portfolio to attack?
I have very, very strong personal feelings on this. So if you don't already buy what I sell, I don't care about you at all. I don't want to make a market. This is my own personal opinion. Like you could have somebody who says, I want to go make a new market. Okay, good for you. Go do that. It's a lot of work. I would rather steal your clients from you because they're already buying what I sell. So that's the best thing. You're already buying what I sell. I don't have to make the conceptual sale and tell you this is why this is a good idea for you. You already believe it's a good idea for you. Now, which ones do I want to pick off? Whoever spends the most money. Whoever spends the most money, I want the largest accounts I can get as early as I can because I want the revenue so I can have the profit so I can continue to go and pursue that.